No one could handle her. Not the therapist, not the elite nannies, not even her own mother. That was the whisper echoing through the marble halls of the Hammond estate, a place where money bought everything except peace. 6-year-old Sophia Hammond sat curled behind an expensive glass desk, her tiny hands shaking as another nanny stormed out in tears. The billionaire's daughter had become a curse no one could tame. And that's when Deshaun Carter, the quiet black janitor, walked in holding nothing more than a mop and a worn-out children's book. "Are you sure you won't leave this man alone with your daughter?" scoffed Ashley Hammond, Sophia's mother, a woman whose voice dripped with the kind of fake politeness that hides disgust. Her friend smirked behind her. "He's a janitor, not a therapist." Deshaun didn't answer. He simply knelt beside the trembling child and opened his old book. "It's about a little girl," he said softly, "who thought she was too broken to be loved." Sophia blinked. For the first time in months, the crying stopped. Ashley froze, the room turning silent enough to hear her own heartbeat. The man she looked down on was doing what 12 specialists couldn't, calming her daughter with patience, not privilege. As the clock ticked, the racist smirk on Ashley's face began to fade. The billionaire's perfect image cracked, and for the first time, she didn't know what to say. The little girl whispered, "Can you read it again?" And that's how it started. The moment when a black man's kindness began dismantling a rich woman's prejudice. If this already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now. Because stories like this are still happening and the world needs to hear them. By nightfall, whispers had spread across the mansion. The janitor got the girl to smile. But in the shadows of that miracle, jealousy and pride were already waking up. Ashley's friend didn't see hope. They saw scandal. And as Deshaun left that evening, wiping the marble floor clean, he didn't know that the same women who watched him work were already plotting to destroy him for daring to succeed where their wealth had failed. The next morning, the mansion looked the same, but everything felt different. Sophia was humming softly at the breakfast table, spooning cereal instead of throwing it. The housekeeper couldn't stop staring. "She's eating," she whispered. Deshaun stood quietly by the hallway, mopping near the grand staircase. He wasn't supposed to be noticed, yet everyone was noticing. Ashley Hammond stepped out of her office. Her voice clipped. "Sophia, did you sleep well?" The little girl nodded. Deshaun read me a story. The air froze. Ashley's friends gathered for their morning coffee, exchanged quick glances. A janitor? Reading stories? Ashley forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That's nice, honey. Run along now." As soon as Sophia was gone, whispers began. "Are you really letting him near her again? You don't know where people like him come from." Ashley didn't answer. She only tightened her grip on the champagne glass, pretending their words didn't sting. But they did. Her entire circle had built their identity on control, and Deshaun's quiet success was a crack in that illusion. Meanwhile, Deshaun returned to his small apartment in Harlem that night. The place smelled faintly of cleaning supplies and books. On a wooden shelf sat his late mother's framed photo, the woman who had taught him to stay kind even when the world wasn't. He opened a notebook, writing. Child shows signs of trauma recovery through empathy-based reading sessions. Continued narrative therapy. He closed the notebook and exhaled. "One step at a time," he murmured. Back at the mansion, Ashley's mother, Madison Hammond, the cold matriarch of old money, had already heard the rumors. "You're risking everything, Ashley," she warned over a video call. "A janitor in your house near your child? Imagine the headlines if something goes wrong." Ashley rubbed her temple. "Mom," he helped her. She laughed for the first time in months. "Temporary miracles, darling. But when people like that cross boundaries, consequences follow." The screen went dark, but Madison's words lingered like poison. That night, as the city lights glimmered outside her window, Ashley stared at her reflection, torn between gratitude and pride. And somewhere across town, Deshaun had no idea that his quiet act of kindness had just placed a target on his back. By the third week, everyone in the Hammond mansion had seen the miracle. Sophia no longer screamed when someone entered her room. She even painted a picture of Deshaun and her mother together, 2 smiles and a red heart between them. But not everyone smiled back. At a private luncheon uptown, Ashley sat surrounded by women who could turn gossip into a weapon sharper than glass. "So this is the man your daughter's obsessed with?" laughed Chloe, one of her oldest friends. "A janitor? My dear, what would people think if the tabloids got hold of that?" Ashley forced a laugh, pretending the joke didn't sting. "It's harmless. He's helping her." But Chloe leaned in closer. "You can't let these people get too comfortable, darling. One day, they forget their place." By evening, the whispers had evolved into rumors. Phone calls spread through Manhattan's elite. A black janitor spending hours alone with a billionaire's daughter. Each repetition made it sound dirtier, darker, until even Ashley's husband, away on business, called in panic. "What the hell are you doing letting a stranger near Sophia?" "He's not a stranger," Ashley snapped. "He's helping her heal." "Then hire someone with a degree, not a mop," he shouted before hanging up. That night, Deshawn walked into the living room and found Ashley staring out the window, glass of wine trembling in her hand. "Is something wrong, ma'am?" She turned sharply. "Did you tell anyone about my daughter's condition?" His eyes widened. "No, ma'am, I would never." "Because someone's been talking," she interrupted, her voice breaking. "And you're the only new person here." The silence between them was thick enough to choke on. Deshawn lowered his eyes. "If you believe I'd ever harm that little girl, I'll leave tonight." But before Ashley could reply, a small voice interrupted. "Mommy, don't send him away." Sophia clung to Deshawn's leg, tears filling her eyes. "He's my friend." The room fell still. Ashley's lips trembled, torn between pride and guilt. "Go to your room, sweetheart." As the child disappeared down the hallway, Deshawn stood tall for the first time. "People like me don't get the benefit of the doubt, do we?" Ashley looked away. "You wouldn't understand." He nodded slowly. "I understand better than you think." He left without another word, the echo of his footsteps cutting through the marble like thunder. Within 24 hours, a private message circulated among New York's high society group chats, a rumor that Ashley Hammond had been reckless, letting a black janitor near her child. And though Deshawn had done nothing but heal, the world was ready to punish him for daring to be more than what they expected. If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if you want justice as much as I do, hit subscribe. The next morning, Ashley woke up to chaos. Headlines had already begun to surface on a gossip blog. Billionaire mom hires janitor as child's caretaker. Staff concerned. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Board members, charity partners. Even the school principal demanding answers. Madison Hammond, her mother, arrived unannounced. Fury disguised as elegance. "I told you this would happen. Do you realize what this could do to our name?" Ashley's hands shook. "I didn't leak anything, Mother." "Of course not," Madison said coldly. "But he might have. Men like that always find ways to benefit." Meanwhile, across town, Deshawn sat in his modest apartment staring at the same blog post. His face, grainy, zoomed in, captioned with words like mystery worker and questionable presence. He exhaled slowly, then opened a black folder from his drawer. Inside were certificates, transcripts, and sealed documents from Harvard Medical School, proof that Deshawn Carter wasn't just a janitor. He was Dr. Deshawn Carter, Ph.D. in child psychology, once considered one of the youngest trauma experts in Boston. He had lost everything 6 years ago when he refused to falsify a psychological report for a powerful senator's son accused of abuse. The family destroyed his reputation overnight. No clinic would hire him again. So he cleaned floors by day, studied by night, and waited for a moment to rebuild what they stole. And that moment had finally arrived. Deshawn called an old friend, Dr. Carmen Alvarez, a respected pediatric psychiatrist. "Carmen, I need verification of my credentials and your testimony if needed." "Are you finally ready to clear your name?" she asked. "Yes," he said quietly. "They've started another witch hunt. This time, I won't let them bury me." For the next few days, he gathered evidence, audio recordings, reports, and therapy notes with Ashley's consent. He documented Sophia's progress with scientific precision, not to prove himself to the world, but to make sure truth couldn't be twisted again. When Ashley called, her voice trembled. "They're saying horrible things, Deshawn. My mother wants to fire you." He answered calmly, "You can if you need to, but before you decide, you should see who I really am." That evening, he walked into the Hammond penthouse, not in his janitor's uniform, but in a dark, tailored suit. His posture, his confidence, his calm, everything about him had changed. Ashley stared in disbelief. Who are you really?" He placed the folder on the marble table. "The man you almost let them destroy twice." For the first time, Ashley saw not an employee, but a man who had earned his strength through pain the world would never understand. Ashley hadn't moved for a full minute after Deshawn left the folder on the table. Inside, there were Harvard transcripts, therapy certifications, and letters of recommendation from doctors she had only read about in magazines. And beneath them, newspaper clippings from 6 years ago. Black therapist dismissed after refusing to alter report for senator's family. She pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. Oh my God! The man she doubted, the man her friends had mocked, was the same doctor her own board once tried to hire. By the next morning, the walls were closing in. Her mother, Madison, demanded a meeting with the board of Hammond Holdings. "Your judgment is being questioned, Ashley. You're losing credibility. Fix this or step down." Ashley's voice cracked. "Mother, we attacked an innocent man." Madison's cold smile returned. "Innocence doesn't matter in this world, darling. Optics do." But for the first time in her life, Ashley didn't listen. Instead, she called Deshawn. "There's going to be a dinner tomorrow night," she said. "My mother invited half of New York's elite to confront me and you." Deshawn's voice was calm. Then it's time they heard the truth. The next evening, chandeliers glittered above a long marble dining table. Madison Hammond arrived draped in silver silk, followed by 3 of Manhattan's most influential socialites, women who had helped spread the rumors. They smiled like predators, sensing blood. Ashley greeted them with a controlled smile. "Thank you all for coming. I'd like to introduce someone." The doors opened. Deshawn entered in a black suit, posture straight, eyes steady. Gasps filled the room. "Good evening," he said evenly. "I'm Dr. Deshawn Carter." Madison's wine glass froze midair. "Doctor?" whispered one of the women. "Yes, ma'am," he continued. "PhD in child psychology from Harvard Medical School. I specialize in trauma recovery for children." He laid a folder on the table. "Copies for everyone. Inside, you'll find documentation of my career, the false accusations that ended it, and proof of how easily power destroys truth when men like me stand alone." Ashley watched the color drain from her mother's face. Madison tried to recover. "This is absurd. You expect us to believe," but Deshawn interrupted gently. "Belief isn't required. Facts are." He opened a laptop connected to a screen behind him. Emails appeared, audio clips, recordings of Madison and her friends whispering about keeping people like him in their place. Their own words filled the room like poison. The silence afterward was suffocating. Deshawn looked each of them in the eye. "You try to destroy me for being black, for being honest, for being human. But every lie you told became a receipt of your own guilt." Madison's hand trembled. What do you want?" He smiled faintly. "Nothing you can buy, just accountability." Ashley stood beside him now, no longer ashamed. "Mother, the era of silence ends tonight." The dinner that was meant to humiliate a man instead became the night Manhattan's elite witnessed their own downfall, served cold, with evidence. The following week, the Hammond estate no longer buzzed with gossip. It trembled with silence. The same women who had mocked Deshawn's name were now the subject of headlines themselves. Elite Manhattan Circle exposed for racial defamation. Audio leaks spark outrage. Every luxury magazine and online tabloid carried the story. Investors withdrew. Sponsors canceled events. One by one, Madison Hammond's powerful friends vanished from her guest list, not out of loyalty, but survival. Ashley resigned from her corporate post within days, issuing a public apology to Deshawn. Her statement trended across social media. Racism doesn't always wear a hood. Sometimes, It wears a suit and sips champagne, and I was blind to it. Meanwhile, Deshaun wasn't celebrating. He was working. The evidence he'd gathered didn't just clear his name, it opened doors. A philanthropic foundation reached out after reading his story. A week later, the Carter Center for Child Trauma Recovery opened its doors in downtown Manhattan, a clinic offering free therapy for children from underprivileged backgrounds. The irony? Its first donors were the very women who had tried to destroy him. Through Ashley's persuasion and Madison's desperate need to clean her image, each of them signed over six-figure donations. Their names were etched on the building's donor wall, beneath Deshaun's. At the grand opening, reporters crowded the lobby. Carter, how does it feel to go from janitor to founder of one of New York's most anticipated therapy centers? Deshaun smiled. I was never a janitor. I was just cleaning up the mess the world left behind. The audience clapped. Ashley stood nearby, silent but proud. Not as a savior, but as someone finally free of her mother's shadow. Outside, a child's laughter echoed. Sophia, running through the hallway with a book in hand. The same book that had started it all. Deshaun watched her and whispered under his breath, "Some stories clean more than floors. They clean hearts." And for the first time in years, the world saw him not as a man to doubt, but as the man who rebuilt himself from the rubble of prejudice. 6 months later, the winter sun spilled across the glass walls of the Carter Center, painting the rooms gold. Children of every color and background filled the hallways, laughing, learning, healing. And at the heart of it all stood Dr. Deshaun Carter, wearing his white coat with quiet pride. Sophia ran up, clutching a drawing. "Look, it's you, me, and Mommy." He smiled. "That's beautiful, sweetheart." Ashley approached moments later, holding 2 cups of coffee. "She's doing better than anyone expected," she said softly. "She's strong," Deshaun replied. "She just needed someone to remind her she wasn't broken." From across the lobby, a familiar face appeared, Madison Hammond, humbled, walking slowly with a donation check in her hand. "Carter," she said quietly, "I came to support the center. It's the least I can do." Deshaun nodded, his voice calm. "Every change begins somewhere. Even late is better than never." She smiled faintly, perhaps for the first time without pride. Outside, reporters still called him the janitor who rebuilt justice, but Deshaun no longer corrected them. He didn't need to. The truth was already louder than the lie. That evening, as he turned off the lights, he glanced once more at Sophia's drawing, the red heart between 3 smiling faces. He whispered, "Maybe forgiveness isn't weakness. Maybe it's the final victory." He stepped outside into the soft New York night, a man who had been broken, rebuilt, and finally seen. If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it.